What's up, everybody? This is Jose with Oakland Latinos United, live with J number 64. I was actually asleep. I woke up to do this live, so I'm joining in, kind of half asleep, but I'll wake up as we go into this live. But what's up with everybody out there? What's up, baby girl? What's up, Don Suave? What's up, Cartoon 707? What's up to anybody else out there? It's been a crazy weekend. You know what I mean? A lot of crazy things been happening. You know what I mean? And a lot of things to talk about. But I'm gonna have my homie on today. Um, my homie, he's known as Joaquin on here on his thing. And we're gonna have him join us with his homie. What's up, Tone Loke? And we're gonna talk. He's gonna talk about an issue that they were working on in the community, and we get to know about what they're talking about and what they're doing. But I've had him on before, my homie Masatal. He's from the 209, and he talked about PTSD and growing up in in poverty and going to war. He talked about different things, so he's gonna come back on with his friends, and you know what I mean. We're gonna see what's up. So let me see if you're here, leave it in the chat that you're here. Like that, I could send the link. But well, how's everybody doing, man? It's been crazy, man. Oh, there he goes. All right, let me send the link, and we'll get it started. Once again, welcome to Live with J number 64. So there's a link, bro. So both of you guys tap in, and we'll get it started. You feel me? But yeah, man, it's been a pretty crazy week shooting out in Sacramento, and I might do a live maybe tomorrow, but I want to do a live and I want to do a spill about the whole Sacramento situation because it's pretty crazy, man. There's actually something that came out of that story that I want to share with you guys about a guy who's a bunch of people made up false claims that he died. Indigenous native Chicano artist, and it's crazy. It's crazy. I might either make a spill on it or I'll talk about it on another live. But you have 6 people that got killed out there, and that's pretty tragic. It's pretty tragic. Oh, there's my homie right there. 6 people that got killed out there. Hey, you're on. You're on. Put your thing because I can hear you echo. That's your homie, right?
That's him. Yeah.
What's going on? Welcome.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Hey, Elias.
Yeah. Let me try and mute it over here.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's gonna have an echo. But what's up, man? Welcome. How you guys doing?
Amazing.
That's good. What's your situation? What's your opinion on the situation out in Sacramento, bro?
It's
That's
tragic.
fresh news.
It's tragic, but a lot of events like that are happening with people getting displaced and with the whole gentrification and crime and people not getting the stimulus check. Sacramento used to be a very violent place like that, and I remember there was shootings when I was growing up in Old Town. So it's tragic, but I don't see gun violence letting up anywhere.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. You seen that? I don't know if you seen that story I sent you about that guy who he was like you guys. He was an indigenous artist, and they made up someone made up a story that he died in that shooting, and there was like a bunch of people tagging him saying, "Oh, you're our homie. We're sad we lost you." And then he says he didn't even know those people. He's like, "Who the fuck are these people? I'm not even dead."
Yeah, no. It's definitely tragic. Hey, I'm gonna get my friend Elias here. Elias,
Yeah.
can you unmute yourself and then go back and mute the YouTube page? I think you got it flipped around.
I think I did that now.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. I don't hear the echo no more.
Sounds good. Yeah, still kind of new to all this. Sorry for the.
It's all good. It's all good. No worries, brother. So I'm gonna go and introduce. Well, mostly it's your home. Your name is Elias.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be more about you today, but because a lot of my audience knows Masatal, aka Joaquin Stanislaus, he's called on here. I'm gonna let him introduce himself real quick one more time for those who don't remember. So let him know, bro.
Just like I was introduced formally, um,
Hmm.
I'm a friend of the channel, and I'm also working with bettering the community out there in the Del Puerto Canyon. And Elias is somebody who is at the tip of the spear doing work round the clock for the community and various communities out in the Sacramento area and beyond. He's a
And
very, you know,
oh, my bad, my bad.
yeah, he's somebody that I grew up with. He's a very humble person and a person who's tapped into his indigenous roots and is doing grassroots work. Bottom line, he's doing a lot of work, grunt work that a lot of people are too scared to do. Whether it's being a news reporter, whether it's having a column, your own paper, talking about issues that affect brown people and indigenous people that we don't usually are educated on knowing our own rights, or
Yeah,
basically standing up to the community and the larger society and saying, hey, we're here, we exist, we matter. He goes to city hall meetings and he does a whole lot. And I think Elias, you want to give him an introduction?
yeah. Let me because Elias never met me before and he doesn't know much about my channel. Let me give me a formal introduction real quick. So my name's Jose Rivera. I'm from East Oakland. Um, I do this channel called Oakland Latinos United, and the reason this started was because I felt that there was a lack of knowledge when it came to Chicano raza history in Oakland, my hometown. So I decided to create this as a because Oakland was always looked on as a black city, or quote unquote a city. There's nothing but black people. There's nobody else in Oakland. So I had to let people know, no, our community is here in Oakland. We have a deep ass history in Oakland, as do indigenous people. There was a lot big relocation of Native Americans to Oakland as well. A long Chicano history in Oakland, going back to the time of the Peraltas, and that's going back to the California times.
Yeah.
And there's just this long history here in Oakland that's just been completely ignored. So Oakland Latinos United is basically a vehicle not only to bring that history out, but also to give the raza in Oakland and the Bay Area kind of our time to shine and let people know what we do out here, what's going on out here. And a lot of people compliment me. They say, "Hey, oh, Jose, your channel's dope because you give insight of what raza in the Bay Area is doing." And we were always curious about what raza in Oakland or the Bay Area are doing. And I'm a former community activist myself. I used to do a lot of work in the community in Oakland and in Richmond and in the Bay Area. And you know what I mean? Today, I'm not that much of a community activist, but I still keep in contact with the community. Activists. I still keep in contact with a lot of community activists, and I still support a movement if I agree with it. And I feel that yes, us as Rasa, we're a sleeping giant. We have to push forward, and we can't be silent. We just can't, because silence is not going to get us anywhere. We have to be vocal. Sometimes I always say that the Jewish and the black community have inspired me in many ways because they have been vocal. You know what I mean? And that's why they get the results that they get, because the squeaky wheel's the one that's going to get the loop. So that's who I am, basically,
Absolutely.
bro.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So now that you know who I am, formally introduce myself. We're gonna give the microphone to you, Elias, and let us know who you are, where you from, and where you grew up. Let's start, because I like to start from the bottom and work my way to the top. So first of all, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for letting me be on your show, and I we share a lot of similarities. Hearing your story. My family, my parents are first generation Mexican American, and so I'm second generation, and we spent a lot of time as a migrant family growing up. They were My dad was a truck driver in the Imperial Valley down there, just this side of Mexicali,
Okay.
so when he was done hauling whatever crop it was over there for the season, and the seasons are way earlier over there than they are up here.
Hmm.
Uh, then we'd move up here, so we'd spend probably 7 to 8 months out of the year down there, and 4 months out of the year up here. And so all of my family, all my siblings, they're all from Imperial and Imperial County. But I'm kind of the only one who was born in Patterson, in Northern California, during all that time. And it was probably about until 1990, we were doing the back and forth every year. And while we were up here, our home in Southern California got ransacked. And I mean, we'd always had issues with border crime. I mean, we lived about 30 miles away from the border. So there was always some different type of, residual crime, happening in the outskirts in the country where we lived.
Was
We had
that
a
was
what
that
was
like
that?
from smugglers and stuff like that, or from?
I mean, who knows? I mean, so one instance, and I was a child and I still remember it. My sisters remember it more clearly. But some guys rolled up on a bike, and we lived about 15 miles outside of the town on Highway 111. And they were on like a BMX bike. One guy was on the handlebars, and one guy was pedaling. And these were like grown adults. And they came up to the door, and it was just my dad was out truck driving, and it was my mom and us kids, and these guys knocked on the door asking for food, and so I mean, just being
Yeah.
good Christians, I mean, good Catholics, my mom gave them some food and some water. And within, I mean, just minutes, my sister, I remember, she turned around and she was like, "Mom, is that our car?" And like, yeah, they were gone. And thankfully the car was kind of on its last legs, so they drove it to the ground, and they were, I mean, they got to Calexico, which was about 30 miles away.
Yeah, I've actually
Almost,
I've been to Calexico and Mexicali, so yeah, I'm
yeah, right
familiar
on the
with that
border.
area.
Yeah, so then they broke down in Calexico, and we were able to get our car back and whatever, insurance and all that, get a new car after that. But yeah, I mean, that was just one thing after another, and when our house got ransacked, that was kind of our cue to move north, where there, small town in Patterson. We had some a property that was my grandfather's, and was passed down.
So
And
a lot of my audience doesn't know probably where that is. Where is Patterson, if you don't
so
mind?
Patterson is West Stanislaus County, and it's funny because a lot of old school families from here have a lot of those same ties of from the migrant farm work from Imperial County in Southern California, and traveling up here to the Central Valley and different parts. It was pretty normal back in the day.
Somebody
Uh,
asked, is that by Modesto? That's by Modesto, right?
yeah, Modesto, just west of Modesto, and Turlock, and south of Tracy, and it's considered the west side of the valley, and sometimes it's referred to as the old West Side Highway, and it's actually dates back to like when the Spanish and even the Native Americans would travel north to south in the valley. They would travel along the western edge there. And so, anyways, that's kind of where modern day Interstate 5 is, and
Yeah.
Patterson is also situated there too.
Is that up there by
Um,
Santanella and all that?
yeah, yeah, north of Santanella, probably about 30 miles or so.
Yeah,
So
I've been through there many years ago. That's way out there.
a little bit, and it's funny because a lot of people, like even like people from Modesto, consider Patterson like way out there when it's only like 15 miles away, 30-minute drive. But for people from Patterson, and like me, I mean, we have these roots of always kind of being migrant people, and driving a lot. And Patterson really just has recently become kind of self-sufficient again in terms of providing services, that where you don't necessarily have to leave town to buy a pair of shoes. But
Okay.
up until the Walmart was built, Super Walmart, I mean, you had to drive to Modesto or Turlock to get some clothes or
Yeah.
shoes, or anything for your
So
education.
these were just like small rural communities back then.
Yeah, and it still is, and although we've gotten, we've like doubled in population out here in Patterson in the past 20 years. There still really isn't a lot of services, and actually we've kind of lost a lot of services.
Yeah.
We had better police services. Now we're contracted with the sheriffs. We had a hospital. The hospital does not exist anymore. So there's there really isn't a lot of benefits from our growth spurt that we've had out here in Patterson. But anyway,
It's
so
crazy when I hear from people, because I mean I grew up in such a metropolitan area, and I hear from people from small towns. They come, man, I had to drive hella far to get some shoes or
yeah,
clothes. When here everything's at our convenience, you just walk down the street and the store is right there.
yeah, yeah.
And we cry about that. We're like, oh man, I had to drive 10 minutes to get to the store.
Oh my gosh.
Like, bro, you only drove 10 minutes, bro. And then if we don't have a car, we have BART, we have the bus,
Oh my
we
gosh. Yeah.
have everything at our convenience, bro. And it's
Out
like,
here, if you don't have a car, if you don't have wheels, I mean, you're stuck. You really
yeah,
are.
yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, man. So it's like, remember, guys, those of us who grew up in the Bay, we had it lucky, bro. Because when you grew up in the countryside, man, it's a whole different ball game.
yeah. But and then there's there's advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot of
for
people,
sure,
you
for sure.
know, you know, and I hear it a lot, because we've had a lot of influx of people from the Bay Area moving out to Patterson over the past 20 years. And, a lot of their first reaction when they first come out here is there's nothing to do, and it's like, well, I mean, compared to like, yeah, we don't have, multiplex cinemas and bowling alleys everywhere, but growing up in town, we had an appreciation of finding things to do, whether it be, playing in the orchards or riding bikes or doing stuff like that, or
Yeah,
exploring the canyon, the Del Puerto Canyon, which is right west of Patterson. That was a huge thing that a lot of people from Patterson
and
really kind of made a part of their lives, was
and
going up
and
there spending time.
and we'll get to Del Puerto Canyon because that's the main thing we're here to talk about. But I want to
Yeah,
talk about a few other little things before we get to that. Like you
absolutely.
mentioned
No,
one. We'll talk about first. We'll talk about growing up in that area, like Patterson, Modesto area. Did you have to deal with gangs, violence, stuff like that? And then I want to talk about you mentioned it, the gentrification pushing people from the Bay Area to the Central Valley, and then from there we'll go to the Del Puerto Canyon or
yeah,
anything else you want to talk about. So basically, you went from the Imperial Valley, which is up there by Calexico, and I've actually been to those areas. I've been to Calexico, I've been to Mexicali. My mom actually, she's from Michoacan, but she grew up in Tijuana, and so I'm very familiar with Baja California area, and which is also California too. A lot of people don't realize that
absolutely.
it's Lower California.
Yep.
That's what Baja means.
Alta and Baja. Yeah, yeah.
What part, if you don't mind me asking, what part of Mexico is your family from?
I'm not entirely sure. They're kind of from like the mountain region, kind of in the center, kind of towards. I've seen some pictures, and I keep, and I don't want to misquote, exactly where they're from. But the pictures I've seen are, it's this little mountain town with little cobblestone, big rocks for cobblestone street and everything. And yeah, I need to. I need to jot all that stuff down because I'm overdue for a trip back for
Yeah,
sure.
you don't know what state they were from?
No, no, I think. Well, my grandma on my mom's side, I want to say Sonora.
Okay, from the north.
Yeah, but the rest were from south, and I mean, I've even someone was even saying on my dad's side that a great grandma or something was like, I've got some Cuban in me apparently also. So, it's
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly everything, but I know a lot of Central American in me for sure.
yeah. I'm actually part Central American myself. I'm half Salvadorian.
Nice, nice.
My dad was from El Salvador. My mom was Mexicana. But okay. So you ended up in, like you said, in the Patterson Modesto area or the 209.
Yeah,
That is the 209, right?
yeah,
Patterson.
absolutely. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So how was it growing up in that area? As a teenager or as a kid, and what was high school like? Was there a lot of gang stuff? Was there a lot of problems there? I mean, because I don't know too much about those areas as much,
Yeah.
so it would be interesting to know what it was like growing up.
Well, it's funny the way Malinali kind of describes me. He says I just kind of had my head to to the ground, and was just kind of just getting my schoolwork done and all that. And I really kind of was in my own little bubble. I knew kind of, I definitely knew what was going on in my community. But part of me was just like, well, whatever. We've always had some sort of gang element in this town. You just kind of get used to it, get over it, learn not to get baited into situations where you're going to get caught in some sort of gang incident. And I was always, very studious. I got good grades, and um, I don't know, for some reason I just kind of was able to avoid, because I grew up on the south side of Patterson, which was, not known for being the best side of town for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and there was gang activity going on my block and in my alley, but I never really fed into it. I kind of hung out with some of those guys, but thankfully I never got caught up in all that. But it wasn't until high school where I really kind of realized what was going on in my community in terms of, like, the gangs and violence. And it's historically known for trafficking. And the sheriffs out here, the Stanislaus County sheriffs, it seems like they've historically turned a blind eye to it, because I mean it's such a small community,
Yeah.
and the hot spots for the human trafficking and stuff. I mean, they're very well known. There's a couple of bars here in town that, it's like these people that they come up to you. I mean, they can't speak any English, and they're just like trying to buy you drinks, and they look uncomfortable, and it's like, or, I mean, they're trying to get you to buy drinks, and it's like a type of prostitution. They're trying to get you in and spend money, and not all the establishments are like that up here, but there's a few, and
Yeah.
it's really obvious,
I've
so
seen I've even seen a few places like that here in Oakland, bro. So yeah, they do exist for sure. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. And so when I Malinali mentioned it, I'm a journalist. I work for the newspaper up here, but I also work for the newspaper in Modesto, the Modesto Bee, pretty big paper. And I mean, that's when it was like really thrown in my face, because as a newspaper journalist, I mean, you're seeing all the raw, gritty stuff. And I spent about 8 years in Patterson, chasing, fires and crimes and accidents and all that stuff. But in Modesto, it was like, I mean, it was another level of blatant, just, they'd always told me about Ninth Street, Modesto. That's where the hookers are and this and that. And, we had this one assignment for the Modesto Bee, me and this reporter, and we went, we don't work at night, we went to these businesses during the day. And, they were like, oh my gosh, at like 5:30, quitting time, the prostitutes are coming in trying to, solicit our workers. It was like a tire shop or something, trying to solicit our workers, and this and that, just no shame. And so
So
I was like, oh my gosh, I got to see this. What was
you
that?
work as a journalist, right?
Yeah. I was
Okay, cool.
a photojournalist at that time. So I was
Órale,
with
so
the reporter, and so the reporter's getting everything that he needs, all the quotes and all that. But here I am, I'm like, dude, this guy's describing this stuff. I want to see this. Like, this sounds crazy. So I went back later that night, and I had my vehicle was kind of, had some high profile windows and, tint and all that, and so I was able to kind of park at the far end of one of these parking lots there at these motels in Ninth Street. And I mean, it's hard to explain, but as soon as I drove into the parking lot, you got your headlights and they flash onto the apartment windows, and the people in there, they see the flash, so they come out, and they're wearing just bras. And I mean, these are like young girls, 16, 17,
yeah,
18, and the windows
great.
are decorated with little flowers and roses, and it's like, it's obvious what's going on. Like, they're walking
Yeah,
around the motel in thongs and underwear, and it's like, there's no question what's going on. You see someone pull up, they go in, they come out 20 minutes later, they leave. Someone does that again. I witnessed it, and so I photographed it the best I could, which wasn't hard. I mean, it was photographing these young, scantily clad
Yeah.
girls walking all around.
So basically, human trafficking and prostitution is a problem in Modesto too,
Oh
right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
so get this. So
God, it's horrible out here, bro.
but me trying to bring light of this, so I'm working in an avenue that can do this.
Yeah.
And so I go back to my editors the next day with these amazing photos,
Yeah.
and they were like, they had already hidden them. They had already put them away. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna save those for a different story for some other time." Yeah,
Wow.
I was like, "Okay," but I mean, I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do, and they kind of shoveled that under the rug and used some,
How'd
some
you how'd you get
PG
into
stuff.
journalism? Did you go to school for that, or did you just happen to get into it?
I mean, it kind of just fell in my lap. I mean, I was always a photographer.
Okay.
I grew up photographing since I was a kid.
Okay.
But journalism just fell in my lap. I was photographing in Patterson, documenting all the growth, everything that was happening. Around the year 2000 is when they really approved, the housing districts that where a lot of people from the Bay Area and stuff moved in. So I was documenting that stuff like crazy, and printing photos and posting them around, and it was, people were noticing that I was noticing. So the newspaper needed some part-time work, and I threw my name in there, and I started working part-time, then just became full-time, and yeah, that was it. I worked at the Patterson Irrigator newspaper for about 9 years total. I started as a photographer part-time. I ended up becoming a crime reporter. I won a first place investigative journalist award, and that's throughout the state of California. That was in 2012 or something like that. Won a best news photo. I mean, I did pretty well there. I ended up becoming the editor, and then some craziness happened. Uh, the sheriff didn't like the fact that I was editor, and so
Oh,
he wrote some BS about me and got me fired. And
wow.
so that was like, I had no idea either. It was kind of like, um, I had a hunch. I mean, being in the investigative journalist business for a while, you get your hunches, and this one was spot on. I was like, because my publisher came in, he was like, you've got a half hour to clean out your stuff, and that was it. I was like, shook his hand. I was like, thank you for the opportunity. Started cleaning out my stuff, and the last newspaper,
So the sheriff
the
like came. The sheriff kind of created something to get rid of you.
well, yeah. So the last edition that had come out, there was some controversy that I investigated and I reported on that didn't make the sheriff look very very
Okay.
good. So then he was like, had to pull up some dirt on me, quote unquote dirt, and he had to spread it around all over town. And I had a hunch, and sure enough, like 3 or 4 months later, somebody got me a hold of this letter that he gave to, XYZ in City Hall. And yeah, so I have it framed. I have copies of it. It's like, it's proof that, the corruption is
Yeah.
to the
That's
core
crazy,
out
man.
here.
That's
But
crazy. Somebody in
yeah.
the comments, my homie from Detroit asked if you ever heard of Charlie LaDuff. You ever heard of him? He was a famous reporter from Detroit. I've actually heard of him.
No, I haven't.
Okay, yeah, he's interesting. I've actually seen some documentaries he made about corruption in Detroit.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess maybe he's comparing you to him.
I'll have to look into it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Charlie LaBeouf.
but actually, Sneaky Beanie, yeah, I know who Charlie. I actually do know who Charlie LaDuff is. I follow
Hmm.
him on Facebook.
What
But
about the
anyway,
web?
anyway, I know everything, motherfuckers. Realize that I know everything.
I know, man. You mentioned the Peraltas earlier, and I was like, dang, not many people know about the Peraltas.
Man,
That's
people from Oakland don't even know the Peraltas, and there's
for
streets
sure, no
called
doubt.
Peralta all over Oakland.
Yeah, yeah. No, I went to the Peralta Hacienda,
Oh yeah,
the other day.
I took my Satel there.
But only after I had read in some books about him, and Masatal, I gave you a copy of that book that I had first read about the Peraltas.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, he came up in a lot of old mission and
Yeah,
diaries and stuff and all that. But yeah, that's it. That's a really important book. Flash that up there.
oh,
A
that's a
time
dope
of
book.
a
That's about
time of
what is
a
that about the
time
Ohlonies?
that's it's called A Time of Little Choice, and it's written by this guy Randall Milliken. But what he did was he had permission from the priests and stuff at all the old missions to inspect the mission registers. The mission registers were really the only document that said how many natives were coming in and where they were from. They gave a
Yeah,
rough description, and so from that he was able to piece, you know, a lot of history together, and that wouldn't be known otherwise, and it's all in that book there.
that's
Um,
interesting. I have to look into that book. That looks interesting.
yeah, yeah, it's really good, and that's where I
I want to
first
know
read about
more
Peralta.
about the history of the Ohlonies too, because there's not much about them. You know.
And yeah, and that's why that guy Randall Milliken wrote this book. Was he was always curious about, the native people of the San Francisco Bay Area, and that there isn't a lot of knowledge. So
Yeah,
that's he it was like his mission to dig up as much as he could, and
and
he's
you know
still
about the
doing
shell
work.
mounds and all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, craziness. So he also, it reminds me, his work reminds me of a guy, Frank Latta, and I wish I had the book next to me. But he was also a guy who was very interested in Native American stuff here in the Central Valley, which was even harder to get information about, because in the Bay Area you had that interaction between the Europeans, and they were taking notes, they were recording in some kind of way.
yeah,
But out here, the interaction that was going on was just, you know, genocide, death. There wasn't a lot of, there was no missions out here, so there was no, the closest one was San Juan Bautista to the Central Valley, and so there was no real record or register of what was going on out here. So Frank Latta was from Newman, which is just south of Patterson, and he kind of made it his life's work to dig up as much information as he could. So what little information that I know and that there is out there about the natives from Del Puerto Canyon and the Diablo Range and this part of the Coast Range, we kind of owe to Frank Latta and his books. His book, it's called the Handbook of Yokuts Indians, and
yeah.
then there's also one on Joaquin Murrieta and his horse gangs, is what that one's called, and that one's
That's another story a lot of people don't know. It's
oh
Joaquin
man, so
Murrieta.
you're familiar. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
real story of Joaquin Murrieta.
Have
Most
you ever
people
heard of another guy who was from Livermore named Procopio? He was also from that era too.
that's it sounds real familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't hear much about him, and obviously you have Tiburcio Vasquez.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I know.
Three
Trust me,
Finger
bro. I know
Jack.
this history.
Yeah.
You got
That's
Three
cool,
Finger
man.
Jack.
That's cool. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
awesome. Yeah, you were saying, you're not much of an activist anymore, man, but just by providing your knowledge and this platform, I mean, you know, that's a lot of activism in itself. So,
I mean,
but
I'm just
anyways,
not. I'm not a soapbox activist anymore. Put it like that. And I
yeah,
don't want to use that as a derogatory term, but I used to be kind of like that. Like I used to be out at protest and organizing with people. Now I
yeah.
kind of do more things on this channel and just let people know. You know?
That's cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Today was pretty wild over here in Patterson. There was a big protest. I mean, I've never seen a protest of this magnitude in Patterson in the past 10, 20 years. And this protest was specifically about housing, and the fact that people are upset that the city just approved 9,000 units, or 9,000 new units for the city, which is gonna make our population grow even more, and people are upset that we don't have any infrastructure. Our roads are crumbling. We still don't have a police department. We still don't have a hospital. So
Yeah.
people were really fed up. There was about 300 people surrounding the downtown building today, and
Wow.
yeah, it was wild. So I went live. All my stuff is on West Stanislaus Journal on Facebook. If anybody wants to find it, I just posted that live stream, and oh my gosh, I mean it.
Is that your page, West
Yeah,
Stanislaus
the
Journal?
West Stanislaus Journal. Yeah,
Hold
it's
on,
on
let me look
Facebook.
it. Let me look it up. I'll put a link to it. Give me a quick second.
Sure.
West Stanis. How do you spell Stanislaus? My bad.
It's the last part of Joaquin Stanislaus's name there. So Stanislaus.
Yeah, he actually, Oakland United actually knows Stanislaus. I took him to the statue in Modesto.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's Stanislaus. Yeah, that's another thing people don't know. Is it the one that says Stanislaus News?
Yeah. The West Stanislaus Journal. Yeah. Um,
Let's see.
it's got like a palm tree photo. Um,
The other thing that people aren't aware of, I just want to interject here,
You
is
said
that
it's on Facebook, right?
yeah.
is that the reason there is no PD or Metro department was because in the 80s they were allowing some of the gang members that were in cahoots with them selling drugs and crack and collecting these sales that were sold at some of the high schools, some of the neighborhoods. They were splitting the profits in '89, if I'm not mistaken. So the Metro Police Department was disbanded, and the Sheriff's Department was put in place to this day to actually patrol that area, West Side Stanislaus, areas like Wesley, Grayson, Vernalis, Newman, parts of Newman, and parts of Crow's Landing, because you had that corruption where money was being generated through drugs. And when you have Elias Funes doubling as a Gary Webb exposing corruption, they put a bounty on his head, Jose.
Or a Charlie LaDuff.
You know, so
So I found
that's
it.
the
I put a
reality.
link down there if anyone wants to follow it. So it's right there. I just put a link to it.
Yeah. So
So it seems like you were out there fighting, exposing corruption. I mean, that's some serious shit right there, bro.
yeah, and I mean, it's like it takes comments from Malinali to kind of like, you know, for me to realize it. I guess it's what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, it's just what I do. Like today, like when take for example when the sheriffs got rid of me from the newspaper. I was like, I don't need the sheriffs, to provide information for me. It's like the people from the street will give me the information. So that's when I started the West Stanislaus Journal, my own independent newspaper, and it was published online for a while, for a good couple years there, until I just kind of let the website die, and I just do on Facebook now only. But I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, I was putting the local paper to shame, because I mean it was
Yeah,
me still, and I was the one man show there at the newspaper to begin with.
bro.
So I was taking the photos, I was making the website, and I mean I was breaking news stories, and even the Modesto Bee, who I wasn't working for them at the time, they had to quote some of my stories because there was some serious stuff going on. There was a council member, her husband committed suicide kind of
Oh
over
wow.
all of this corruption stuff that's going on here in town. And so, she was one of my friends. And so she wanted to talk to me, so I was able to break that story and nobody else. So even the Patterson irrigator and the Modesto Bee had to quote my article there. So it was a legitimate, newspaper I had going for a little while. And so now that I've been working for the newspaper up in Grass Valley, I haven't really had too much time to keep my West Stanislaus Journal page as up to date as I'd like. But I'm
Basically, we could say that you ruffle some feathers out there.
oh my gosh, dude, that's an understatement, man.
Yeah.
Every time I walk into the council meeting, or go up to
So you're the like, oh my god, here he comes, guy, right?
exactly. Oh yeah. No, I mean so at that, so the protest today was before a council meeting, and it was just a public comment and all this BS. And so, okay, I'm going into the meeting. I'm a member of the media. I got my cameras, I got my video. I'm going live. They tried to kick me out of the freaking meeting. It was crazy. I was like, what? But thankfully, this other photographer from the Modesto Bee showed up, and since he's from the media also, kind of strength in numbers, they didn't kick us out. They were trying to say that we didn't have reservations, that they were only taking reservations, and that the reservations had been filled up. Our me and Malinali's friend, John Mataka X, he was there too, and he spoke, and um, he was like, I need a reservation to go to a restaurant, maybe if I'm going to a good club, but never to speak at a public meeting. I was like, oh man, people were cheering at that one. But yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. It was a shit show, but it was, it's completely representative of what Patterson politics is. It's been, corrupt for years.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so the most recent video that I posted, it starts with, the protest outside, and then I go in, and then there's the controversy of, it's all live. It should all be there, of like, hey, are we getting kicked out? And then it's like, so, the city clerk who comes up to me, who, she's the minion of the city manager, who is a former developer of the city of Patterson. So she comes up to me and she's like, "Oh, if you don't have your, a reservation, well, you're gonna have to wait outside." And I mean, she didn't say anything about public comment. Like, well, what if I wanted to make a public comment? Did someone need to make a reservation to make a public comment? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's blatant violations of the Brown Act that this city council is conducting. So they made some last minute decision where they were going to allow standing room only for the council meeting. But of course, all the people who were protesting had already left. And so, of course, they allowed, people to come in after everybody left because they didn't think they were going to be able to get let in and have a say. So, it's just completely indicative of government and how it works out
Yeah.
here, and
Oh yeah.
the dam, and they're trying to shove that down our throat, and under the radar, and hoping that nobody's going to make a big deal about it. But
Yeah.
that's where they're wrong. We've had everyone that we tell about this, the proposal to dam Del Puerto Canyon, which it sits right above Patterson, and there's a fault line right there. And the last time the fault broke, I think, was it's like a 6 point something magnitude quake.
Which
In
one is it? Is it the Hayward fault?
No, it's called the Joaquin fault, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I didn't even heard of that one. I heard of the
yeah,
Hayward fault. Yeah. So
um, I'll,
let's pause real quick with
yeah,
the Del Portal Canyon. I just want to get 2 points before we go to that, because that is the main thing you guys are here for the Del
yeah, yeah.
Portal Canyon. So what's been going on with the gentrification of the Bay Area and people moving to Patterson and Modesto and those areas? How is that affecting that area?
I mean, it's shocking to everybody. People just aren't ready for it. Um, the
So it's
infrastructure.
changing the culture and the area in general. But also,
Absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. The infrastructure isn't ready for it. We don't have, proper entertainment or parks or anything, to deal with all the masses. So the crime rate goes up.
mm,
And but there's been some positives. One of the main positive thing that I saw when I was working for the Patterson irrigator was the diversification of the community. I mean, it was like went from being just brown and white to, all of a sudden we've got Indians and Sikh and then we've got these Tongans, and then all these different kinds of
yeah,
races and stuff.
Big black population, highest in the Central Valley. I
And
think it's like 9 or 10%.
Yeah, and I mean, from, having point like 0.09%, black people here before, I mean, yeah, we all remember there was just like one or two black families growing up in
Yeah.
here. Now it's like, yeah, it's as a result, our high school sports team has done amazing since this diversification. Yeah, we've been able to contend with some of the best out there. So that's been a
So you're
positive.
getting a lot of people like from Oakland, from Hayward, from San Jose,
Absolutely,
San Francisco.
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're getting pushed out, I mean, things are getting too expensive for them,
yeah,
they get a little bit more bang for their buck out here, and yeah,
yeah.
so
But I guarantee you, a lot of those people when they move out there, it's probably a cultural shock to them.
oh, absolutely, 100%, and it really takes an open-minded person to be able to make that transition out here, but yeah, I mean, 90% of them. I mean, I see it all the time on the complaints on Facebook posts and stuff and comments, people are just like, "Oh, there's nothing to do." They're, just complaining about, the lack in representation, I sat on the planning commission, but I also sat on the Parks and Rec commission, and, I mean, I didn't need to sit on no commission to be they just threw me on those because I was volunteering all the time.
Yeah.
I helped get the skate park built here in Patterson, and, that just I mean, that took a lot of hard work, to get something for this community, for the kids, and, people don't realize how hard it is to get, things like that, and so now that, volunteers like me have kind of moved off, and I'm really fighting for the canyon, so that's why I've been really kind of coming back for
So
that. But
before we go into the canyon, that's
yeah,
going to be our last point.
no, for sure.
I wanted to ask you. So, how did you start? I don't know. This is why I'm asking. How did you start identifying with the whole basically the indigenous culture? How did you grow up like that, or did that come about a little later as a reconnecting native, as they say sometimes, or a reconnecting indigenous person? How did you come about into that indigenous world?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's kind of always been like a part of like how I was raised, like with like my family, even though they're not native, or they don't practice it, they obviously are, but just like taking me to the canyon. I know we're going to get more to that, but it's like
Yeah,
that just that act of, taking me to be in nature, not just in the canyon, but other places, um, I mean, that's a very natural act, that would had been celebrated there by those same, natives that had lived there generations before, and they might not have known that they were exposing me to that, but they were,
yeah,
and I took some field studies classes in Baja California down there, and we've seen some crazy stuff out there and out in the middle of nowhere oh gosh, I forget what the big the Cardone forests out there in the middle of Baja, and there's like some Native American paintings and drawings and all that stuff out there is wild,
yeah.
and it just puts you into perspective. So that and just always wondering about who the people were in this area, because when my parents did take me to Del Puerto Canyon, I mean, you see the grinding holes right there in the
Yeah.
ground.
Oh, yeah. You see those in the Bay Area too, in some places. You know where to find.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I've heard about them. I've seen them before. I can't remember where, but I have seen them in some of the mountains out here.
Wow, and see that's amazing how like, like, they're out there, like for
Yeah,
me, like, and for anyone from Patterson, we all know exactly where those are right there in Del Puerto Canyon. Like
yeah.
that is the spot, that
So,
people have been going to for years.
so let's talk
Um,
about that. So, what is and where is Del Puerto Canyon that we keep talking about?
so Del Puerto Canyon was first named by or given its current name. I mean, who knows what its native name was.
By the
It
Spaniards, most likely, right?
Yeah, so the Spanish named it. They were traveling, doing their inland traverse in the late 1700s, 1770 something. Coming from the south, from L.A. to Bay Area, and they traversed that western West Valley Highway, the one I was telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and As they passed Del Puerto Canyon, they noticed there was just a very narrow opening in the mountain where the creek comes out, and once you go through it, it opens up into a big canyon, and but you can't tell really unless you go up that canyon. So it means the doorway, the entryway in Spanish. And so that's what that canyon is named after, that specific rock feature right at the entrance of the canyon. And once you pass that entrance, um, towards the valley, the creek would flow towards the San Joaquin River, and then out towards the delta and the bay, and so forth.
So is it
Um,
technically in the Central Valley, or is it in the Bay Area?
Well, it is the Central Valley. Kind of, they've been calling this the East Bay now, but I mean it technically is the Central Valley. And so the hills where the canyon goes into, it would be considered the Diablo Range of the
Okay.
Coast Range, and it would be on the what we call that, the western edge of the valley there.
Is that near Pacheco Pass?
Yeah, so Pacheco Pass is to the south, but it's that
Okay.
same mountain range, that same type of topography. The Spanish called it the Diablo Range because they would be cursing the devil after the Indians would lead them in there. The Native Americans would lead them into these canyons because they were escaping from the missions. So the natives would lead them into these canyons, and they would get lost in there, and they would
Okay.
be cursing the devil. So that's one of the. I mean, there's a few different stories as to how the Diablo Range got its name,
Oh,
but that's
okay.
one of them.
Yeah, because I had never heard about this place until Masatal started telling me about it. So I didn't even know it existed, bro. So this is all new to me.
Yeah, if you get a chance, take a drive. A lot of people drive.
Definitely,
It's
me and Masatal should go up there and make at least a video there. That would be dope.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'd love to show you guys some of the spots.
So
Um,
what is the fight going on that you guys? Because you guys are working on something there that
yeah,
people. That's why we're on here, because we want my audience and not just my audience, those who are probably going to watch the video later, who might not be my normal audience, to learn what is going on out there. So what is it, the fight that you guys are doing out there? So they're trying to destroy this canyon, or what's going on?
yeah. So the Del Puerto Water District, which they're named after this canyon. They're the ones who put this plan together to dam the entrance of the canyon, the gateway rocks, the ones that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
That they actually have a Native American pathway is carved into those rocks that I had no idea about until maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. I was hiking in that area, and I noticed these handholds in these rocks, and I was like, wait, that's a natural pathway that's been carved through these rocks from thousands and thousands of years of people using this as a throughway, as a travel route. Del Puerto Canyon was a pathway that connected the mountain pathway with the Central Valley. And so, anyways, the fight that we're doing, we're trying to stop this thing. We're collecting signatures. We're trying to gain awareness to people. I took a couple weeks off of work, and sat in front of Walmart, and I was just collecting signatures and handing out flyers, and then the Fox 40 came down and interviewed people, and so we're just trying to raise awareness about it because the water district is trying to just slide this through under everybody's radar without anybody knowing, and
Yeah.
and they've been pretty successful in those efforts.
Is there a lot of wildlife up there, like
Oh my
mountain lions,
gosh, yeah,
deer,
it's
and all
it's
that?
oh, it's unique. It's unique to that specific area.
Wow.
because of that canyon that I was telling you about that kind of opens up. There's micro. It creates a microclimate in there that sometimes it's sunny out here in the valley, but then it'll be cloudy or foggy or rainy up there, or vice versa. Or it'll be windy in the valley and it'll be calm up there. So there's the federally endangered San Joaquin kit fox. They've identified a few den sites within the footprint of this proposed reservoir. So I mean, those would definitely be displaced. I mean, there's California golden eagles, bald eagles. It's a really well-known site for birders, and just like I forget the Audubon Society has noted just a magnitude of birds, that kind of can't be found in other places, that you can kind of find them all there. And I've seen them out there too. You'll see the roadrunners and woodpeckers, and then
Yeah, that's dope.
western tanagers, and I
Yeah,
mean all the
that's pretty dope.
quails and eagles, bald eagles. Yeah, you
So it
name
sounds
it.
kind of like an oasis in a way.
It absolutely is. And so, see, I was exposed to this as a child, not knowing that, like, oh, this is like not necessarily normal for everyone. Not everyone grows up getting to experience that all the time
It's
or
kind of
whenever
like
they
I was
want.
telling Masata, like the time, because I grew up in the Bay Area, so I grew up in this crazy environment. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? This, like he always makes fun of me because I'm always in the rush, and I'm not aware of it. But he told me, bro, you're always running everywhere you go. Well, what's up? And I'm like, bro, look at where I grew up, bro. I grew up in a rat race. So I remember the first time I ever went to Humboldt County. I don't know if you've been to Humboldt before
oh
up
yeah,
north.
hmm,
I went into where the Avenue of the Giants is, right?
yeah, hmm,
I went into the forest, bro, and meditated for an hour straight, bro. And I mean, meditating in the forest, bro, just did something to me, bro. It
oh
like
yeah,
really soothed my mind. So I know what you're talking about, bro.
yeah,
It's not bullshit either. It is
yeah,
real, bro.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So going into the forest, into these big ass fucking redwoods, and like it has this smell I can't describe, bro. It's a really beautiful smell. And I remember going into the forest, just meditating, just sitting there, bro, clearing my mind of all the BS that we live here, bro. And I
yeah,
just came out feeling like $1,000,000, bro.
yeah,
And I get that that's probably what you feel in this area del Puerto Canyon, because ever since that, bro, I've always loved Humboldt County. I'm like, wow, the forest gives something to me up there. It
yeah,
always like I want to go back actually to the forest out there, but
yeah.
I guarantee you that that's probably somebody said I used up the fresh air with my big nose. Fucking idiots. But anyway, no, but we joke around a lot on here,
No, no, I feel you.
but
But yeah, no, I feel you there real hard, and I
oh, what's
say
up, 1312?
it's kind of sad to say that that kind of used to be my feeling in this area and in Del Puerto Canyon, but and I kind of had that feeling um earlier today though, actually, because I went to the spot. There's we've been cleaning up the canyon. We do these cleanups every third Sunday of the month, and it's really made an effort. I mean, the rest of Patterson out here there's been dump piles everywhere, but we've been constantly cleaning up the dump piles in Del Puerto Canyon. And I mean, I was up there today checking on this one spring that we've been pulling trash out of over the past year. That's right by the road, so people just, oh, let's just dump it out on the side, but they don't realize it's going directly into a spring that goes directly into our groundwater recharge.
Oh wow,
So yeah, I checked on it today. Nothing, no trash in there. So it was
that's good.
beautiful. I got to have a moment there where I was just like you said, just meditating. And other times I go up there though, and it's just trash everywhere, and it's bad. But yeah, since we've been cleaning up, raising awareness, doing all that, we've really made a difference in that regard over the past year. But yeah, now I kind of get that feeling up in Grass Valley in Nevada County, I where I work now. I mean, it's so the nature up there, people are just so in tune with nature. They support, preservation, not pollution, sustainable everything. And so kind of, I'm really glad that I'm up there, about 5 days of the week, because I get that recharge. And
And
then,
how long have you been doing this at Del Puerto
yeah,
Canyon?
well, since, well, for the past 3 years since they announced the project, we've been fighting it. We've been going out there with our awareness campaign and collecting signatures and writing letters and doing all that stuff. We recently started our yard sign campaign, so I just got done passing out some yard signs today, driving them to people's addresses, and yeah, it's just a little bit here and there, just trying to continue, plugging away. We did so the water district, they approved their project, um, but we immediately filed a lawsuit, and so because their environmental impact report was just, it was just so shoddy. It was full of holes. It didn't recognize a lot of stuff. It said that there's no recreation that happens in Del Puerto Canyon, so they don't have to provide any sort of mitigation for that, which is complete BS. I mean, there's been recreation going on up there for generations. It's well documented. So anyway, so
So if
that
they build
alone,
this dam, it's basically going to swallow up Del Puerto Canyon.
the first 5 miles, yes, it would swallow up. There's those first 5 miles, which are very important. A very unique area. But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of what we're doing.
That's pretty cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was the Native American tribe that was connected to Del Puerto Canyon? Was it the Alones or was it the Yokuts or who was in that area?
It's definitely the Yokuts,
Okay.
the Northern Valley Yokuts, and the name that I had mentioned, that guy Frank Latta. He The way he got these names, I mean, it's amazing that he was even able to get these names. There was two tribe. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Orostimba tribe, but they weren't called Orostimba. They were called Miumne, the Miumne Yokuts, and they were a tribe of about 300 to 500, which is very. I mean, that's unprecedented for California. And most of the tribes were, you know 30 to 100 folks, very close together. But out here in the valley, um, and it might have been because a lot of escaped or runaway natives from the mission system were joining
Yeah.
this tribe out here. But
Was Stanislaw a runaway native?
yeah, he was one of the first Bay Area transplants. I think he came. Yeah, I think he left
Was he an
from.
Alone?
I'm not sure, but I think he went from Mission Santa Clara. I think he left that one. I'm not sure though exactly, but yeah, he's one of our first Bay Area
So
transplants.
those of you who don't know, because some of the viewers don't know this, Stanislaus County is named after a Native American who ran away from the Spanish. He basically ran away from the Spanish colonization, and he had a Spanish name. His name was Estanislao. And when they named the county, the white people couldn't say Estanislao, so they anglicized it to Stanislaus. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, yeah, very very good history there.
Yeah, and what tribes came out of Oakland? Because it was the Alones, bro. They were called the Chochenyo Alones in Oakland. I
Nice.
want to share a story with you, Elias
Yeah.
Funes. And actually, Masatal knows already because I actually took him where this happened, and I don't know if you know this story. And I think more some kind of historical thing should be done about it because there's no plaque or memorial or nothing there. Have you ever heard of the massacre of the Sassoon Native Americans over there by Fairfield? You know where Fairfield is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So in 1810, the Spaniards were trying to colonize. Well, they colonized the Bay Area by that point, and they had the Mission Dolores, which is where the Mission District gets its name from.
Hmm.
Um, so basically, the Spaniards considered the area of Vallejo, Fairfield, and that area right there, the 707. They considered that area hostile territory because the natives there were not Catholic or Christianized natives like the ones in San Francisco were. So they wanted to colonize that area, but every time they would go, the natives there would always fight back. They had like the Chichimeca type vibe. They were like, we ain't getting colonized by you motherfuckers. So
Yeah, yeah.
what happened was the Spaniards came with a big army, no different, bro. And nobody knows these stories. They came with an army just like in Mexico. It was a mixed army made up of quote unquote modern day Mexicans, because back then they were considered Spaniards under the crown. There was criollos, there was mestizos, a mixture, and there was also California natives who had been Christianized. So they went to Vallejo, to the Carquinez Straits, to try to colonize the Sassoon people. And what happened was the Sassoons drove them back. You know what I mean? So they said, fuck this, we got to come with a bigger army. So they went back into Vallejo and they pushed the Sassoons back into their territory, which was a place called Yul Yul was the name of the place. Under the Sassoon name was the name of their village.
Hmm.
And today it's a place called Rockville. So what happened was they pushed the Spaniards pushed or the Mexican Spanish, whatever you want to call them, because you could say they were pretty much both. They pushed the Sassoon people back into their village, and I think, what was the name of I forget the name of the chief. I knew the whole story, bro, but I can't remember the name of the chief. So what happened was the Spaniards surrounded them, bro. The natives kept on fighting, bro, and supposedly what happened was the natives retreated into their huts, their little village, their little, their whatever, not teepees, but their little huts that they had. And the Spaniards burned them alive in their huts, bro.
Dang.
Massacred them, bro.
Yeah, I
And
think I've heard of that one.
and the ones that survived fled into the mountains, because those are big mountains by Rockville. And then one of the survivors was a kid, and they brought him back to the Mission Dolores in San Francisco, and he ended up becoming a California later on. He was a Sassoon named Francisco Solano, or Semieto was his indigenous. His name was Sina Semieto. That was his indigenous name, but he became a landowner in Fairfield, Sassoon area, and he was one of the few Californios that was a Sassoon indigenous person. So hence today the county is called Solano, named after Francisco Solano. Hence why Solano County is called Solano County. So
Wow.
I don't know if you knew that story.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. So I've always told Masatal that there should be some kind of memorial or something commemorating what happened there, bro. Because that was brutal what happened, bro. There, and nobody knows about that story. And it was fucking brutal, bro.
Yeah, heck yeah. Where would you think that plaque or memorial should
I
go?
think
Right
in
there by the
Rockville,
strait or something?
I think in Rockville, right there, because there's a park in Rockville. I think right there. Supposedly that's where
Yeah.
where it happened. And yeah, I always wanted to see. Even though I'm not from Solano County, I would always like to see something like that. You know what I mean? I made a video there many years ago, and I took Masatal there. Masatal said he felt the dark energy there. Didn't you tell me that, Masatal?
Yeah, you could feel this vibrance of just hopelessness. You could see the darkness within the shadows of the trees. Everything's twisted up. There's signs about the animals as you're going to peer up,
Oh yeah,
winding
yeah, yeah,
path.
yeah.
But more importantly, the nuances here. The indigenous people suffered in the Central Valley. Whether it was the Oristimba, the Muyemwa, the massacres that have happened, and there was only 2 survivors out of the Oristimba massacre when the Spanish ambushed them that Elias left out. Those 2 survivors out of this tribe of 300 people, that's a conservative probably number, were able to move on, and their story was written. 2 survivors. And this area is supposed to be the Yosemite. And Elias uses this, the Yosemite of the Central Valley and the Bay Area. And yet nobody from the Bay Area, even though the county of Santa Clara and the county of Alameda touch the part of the lower part of that mountain. That's how far reach those two counties have into the Central Valley, into that mountain range. They're hooked into that. Their borders reach in there, dig into the heels. and and a lot of people don't go there to go on hikes. It's a beautiful hiking area, quadding, four-wheeling, barbecuing. There's even a bunch of clowns that go out there shooting their guns and doing all kinds of like little parties and weird stuff. So the indigenous history, everybody in the Bay Area throws around the word, I'm a native. I'm a Bay Area native, right? To kind of show that they're superior to other people, right? Well, if you can't hold it down in the Bay Area, you're going to get exiled as a refugee to the Central Valley. The weather is nothing like the Bay Area. It's a very agricultural giant as opposed to warehouse and or tech.
Yeah.
And you're going to be dealing with people who work the fields. Everybody throws out Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers Eagle of, having pride for the gang aspect, the prison gang aspect. But they neglect the people that work the fields because nobody wants to be an ignorant paisa or an indigenous person. You could be black, you could act black or European white and have a black and white narrative. But the minute you want to touch into your roots and be indigenous, it's like, oh, wait a minute, you can't do that. So if you don't play your cards right, you're going to get pushed out of the Bay Area and you'll get exiled into the Central Valley, and you won't be able to get that culture shock of being exiled to hell from your Garden of Eden and want to work the fields and feel like I got no family and friends. It's too hot here. There's nothing to do. It smells like manure. There's cows. There's turkey farms, chicken farms. Well, you put yourself
all the time.
Yeah, you put yourself there, and your actions led up. Your bad behavior led up to your decisions to be put out there.
Yeah.
And the only cheaper rent that's going to be there, it's out of state or out of country, because it's a privilege to live in the Bay Area. It's a privilege to live in California. You know what I mean? So sometimes some of the people that come from Oakland or Hayward or the East Bay or San Jose, they want to go rob people. They want to go bang on people. They want to steal cars and throw out their neighborhood. And that makes it very strenuous and makes it very hard to accept Bay Area people when they're going in there causing mayhem to other people that don't gangbang, that aren't out there, that are a lot more poorer than the people of the Bay Area. And so you have a mixed bag of personalities. And that's just fact. But going back to the indigenous aspect, not a whole lot is written about the indigenous people. And Elias has been spearheading the movement to keep this canyon alive, to keep the indigenous history alive, because the indigenous and the Mexican history, the Mexica history in the Central Valley is erased. It's sanitized. Nobody speaks of it. Nobody cares to reference us as human people. They look at us as animals or objects. So therefore, some of us do act like animals or savages in that bigotry, in the sense of, okay, you're going to treat me bad, so I'm going to react on emotion. So I would say for a lot of people, it's the cards that you're dealt. And unfortunately, indigenous people have been dealt a bad hand all through Turtle Island and all through this hemisphere. And we're trying to do like our ancestors, is survive and do things as best as we can, but for Mother Earth, for Tonantzin, not just for a block or for a color or for a drug. We're trying to do it to awaken the sleepy giant, the community, and say, hey, we have rights too. We need to fight back, but in a productive way. And that's what Elias does. Elias pushes for his people. He got an awakening. He didn't share this. When he went to Mexico, he went out there soul searching for an identity, because he was a brown boy going to school, but he was quiet. He was very reserved. He got the good grades. He kept his head low, and he was just the adorable brown person, the token brown man. When he went to Mexico, he came back and he wrote a column about his experience connecting with his roots in Mexico. And that became Elias stirring the pot in the 209 area. And that became that revolutionary Elias, Che Guevara Elias, Joaquin Murrieta Elias. And he has since led the charge.
Somebody asked me, Elias, what's your indigenous name?
Oh man, I wrote it down. Well, Nali, you gave it to me that one time. Oh, why can I not remember it right now?
Was it Flint? Wasn't it Flint?
No,
Or was it
it
was
was
it
Tonali. Oh, I can't remember the last part.
yeah, I think
It
wasn't
was
it Sun? Or what was the Sun?
it was Tonali was the first part. I forgot the last. Tonali. I can't remember the last part.
Somebody
So,
said, did you go down a psychedelic experience when you were down in Mexico? Like,
um, partially. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like peyote or anything, but
yeah,
I mean, it was. I mean, the experiences down there were just everything was almost psychedelic. I mean, one experience. Have you ever experienced the bioluminescence? Like you see the waves crashing and they're kind of glowing because there's like bioluminescent phytoplankton in there, and every time they get agitated, they put off a little glow, almost like a like a firefly. It's that same kind of. Um, so, anyways, this is happening in the ocean, and in this one bay, Bahia de Los Angeles, which is like really known for its biodiversity and rich sea life. And so we would camp out on the on the coast right there on the beach, outside of the beach, the station house, the field house, our little laboratory. And me and this girl would, we'd wake up in the middle of the night and we'd go swimming out there into the bioluminescence. And when you're like underwater with the goggles going at you, I mean, it looks like you're like, I don't
yeah,
know, I would describe it like light speed, in Star Wars. You hit the light speed and all these, like colors and flashes are just flashing in front of you. And then you see like a little a stingray move, but you only see the glow, being from the water that it's disturbing. You can't see the stingray. You just see, a glowing bioluminescence. And I don't know. I mean, that was just part of it. The other. I mean, I've never been in a place that was so remote. You
yeah.
know, before, and
Do
every
you,
day we'd go out on boats and go swimming with whales and whale
this was
sharks
out
and
in Mexico,
dolphins. And
right?
what was that?
This was out in Mexico, right?
Yeah, yeah, in the Gulf of California, on the Baja side there.
Was
But
it the upper Baja side or the lower Baja
right
side?
in the middle, right in the
Oh, in the
middle.
middle.
It's called Bahia de Los Angeles. It's about
Is
500
that Baja
miles.
California Sur or Norte?
So I can't recall. I know it's like right in the middle because it's halfway between La Paz and Mexicali.
Oh, okay.
Um, but but yeah, there's some really interesting books written about the Sea of Cortez, and all the expeditions that have
Oh,
been
yeah,
taken
that
out
is
there
called the
before.
Sea of Cortez. I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
John Steinbeck had an interesting book that he wrote out there. Yeah, pretty funny.
Do you speak the other colonizer language, Espanol?
It was my first. It was my first language. And then I grew up in the time though, where and my parents wanted me to be very, accepted by the community and all that. So they stopped speaking Spanish to me when I started going to school, and this
Oh,
was at a time before it was cool to be bilingual.
yeah.
Back then it wasn't cool to be bilingual. It
Yeah,
was.
I met a lot of older people from Oakland, and they would tell me the same thing, like old Chicanos. They would say, "Yeah, when we were young, our parents didn't speak to us in Spanish because they didn't want
Yeah,
us to be discriminated against. They wanted
yeah.
us to be Americanized."
Assimilate.
So that was
Yeah,
very typical with
yeah,
older generation for sure.
for sure. Yeah, and
Not
so
me. I speak both.
yeah, and it's something that I struggle with, sometimes people are like, "What? You don't speak Spanish?" But the way that Malinali tells me, it's like now I'm going to be like, "Wait, what? You don't speak your truly native tongue?" It's like, what you're speaking now is,
And it's
what
interesting
we're
because I did
colonized.
make a video on that. I made a live on that topic about a month ago about about Chicanos or Raza that don't speak Spanish and where do they fit in the whole conversation. It was interesting. It was actually a really good live.
Hmm.
It was about a month ago I did that. So yeah, it was a good it was a good perspective on it. And actually I got a lot of good feedback from that video.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and I just want to add, for us,
Oh, lost
What
him.
happened? He got cut off. Hold on, let me put the link back on. That fool cut himself off.
Press the wrong button.
Because I didn't cut him. Oh, there he goes. I didn't cut him off. There he goes.
I'm
What were you
here.
gonna say, bro?
Yeah, what I was going to say was that in our perspective, with our identities, we've created our own cultural identities. For people that are in gangs and drugs, their identities based off of that.
Yeah, Smitty's on here. What's
For
up,
us,
Smitty?
we've created an identity within as community organizers in our commune, in our tribe, and fighting for Mother Earth and going through the indigenous pathway. Because how many people go out and fight for a mountain or a canyon or animals, four-legged, winged animals? And something that Elias left out was you find wild boar that come from San Jose trotting along. You'll see some deer, some mule
I,
deer.
I do know a guy in Tennessee who fights for tortas.
Yeah, you'll see.
Just a
You'll
quick
see
joke, bro. It's an
it's a
inside
quick
joke.
joke. Yeah, he probably fights for Popeye's chicken, bro. Popeye's sandwiches too. You know what I mean?
I'm
So
sure most of
for
the people
us,
know who I'm talking about.
we never really fit into our neighborhoods or into our family or at school, but we found our own pathway through the spirit of our ancestors, through the spirit of doing things for other people. We're the few people that go out and go above and beyond and do the dirty work that our community's too scared or doesn't know how to do. We're role models to certain people. We're our own people. We're not followers, we're our own leaders. And we've paved our own identities and left our fingerprint in our communities. There's a mural that was done that was indigenous. It's still out there in the Patterson area of the Sunstone. And
Yeah.
everything that we've done has shocked people. Everything that we do, Elias doesn't talk about how he gave his time up to the community to teach people how to do photography class for free. He wasn't getting paid not a single red cent or a shiny nickel. He's done so much.
I think
to
I got paid the
inspire-
first year. I got paid the first year a stipend, and then after that, I was like, I'll just do it for free.
Oh, there you go. Well, then, and that's the situation. And he gets donations. So if anybody wants to donate to Del Puerto Canyon, he takes donations. And the opposite way, south of the I-5 corridor, he takes the trash over there that people are too lazy to do. And the thing about the Central Valley, San Joaquin Valley, it's opening up housing in congested areas like Oakland, San Jose, San Francisco, San Diego, and Los Angeles. So there's housing between Tracy, Patterson, Modesto, Newman, Merced. It's opening up to fill that void that the Bay Area is unwilling to build up or unwilling to fill in for its new arriving people from all over the world. You guys are in the arch. You guys are in the doorway to Asia, Europe, Africa, Middle East, India. And they come to your cities first, to San Francisco, to Oakland, to San Jose, to Long Beach, San Diego, and Oakland. And our families don't teach us, hey, you got to have money in the bank. You got to have education, home ownership, business ownership, political power. We're not taught that. In the ghettos, we're taught, be tough. Don't back down. Don't show emotions. Don't be, soft.
Yeah. Don't cry.
Don't cry. How is that going to help you in a European world and a European concept where they make the laws? They're at City Hall. They're the ones with generational wealth. You want to keep banging a block that you don't own in a neighborhood that you're renting on Section 8 housing, they'll just pluck you out and throw you to the curb. You get blasted in your neighborhood, people will put you on a white t-shirt, but they won't remember you 20 years from now. They won't remember you. Generations won't talk about you like you did something big. We got too many people behind the prison walls. We got too many people on drugs. We got too many people selling drugs. Too many people being gangsters. Where are the community activists? Where are the men raising their kids, being there for their grandparents? Or
Yeah.
wanting positivity and wanting more in life. And Elias, And me and other people like us, we go out and do this good work because it's the right thing to do. And we sacrifice our time to inspire other people to hopefully change their lives and rethink about things that they've been through in their life trauma. Hey,
Well,
use
it
that
was
anger and
inspiring.
negativity for
It was
some positivity.
inspiring to see all those kids today. It was like 300 kids, and adults and everyone from the school district. They were all protesting the fact that the city council is waiving developer fees for
Yeah,
building schools. So they were all out there protesting, and that was encouraging to see. But they need to take it the next step, and I think they need to realize that you know shaking a sign out by the road is one thing, but the next step is going into that city council meeting, making sure that you stand up for the right to be able to speak out. Don't let them try and kick you out like they tried kicking everybody else out. Don't stand for that.
Yeah,
That's
for
not
sure.
that's not that's not kosher. That's a public comment period for a public meeting. And they're telling everyone, "Oh, because you didn't make a reservation, you have to leave." And they just took it and left?
Yeah,
Like, no. See, and that's what's been happening in Patterson for generations is people don't know any better. So the government gets away with it. And I remember when I was a journalist photographer for the Patterson paper, I remember the cops would be trying to like keep me from doing things or seeing things or accessing certain things. And then, come to find out, because I never went to school for journalism. I just went to school for photography. So I kind of learned journalism on the fly. But, I didn't realize until years later that as a member of the media, as a member of the press, like you have access to certain areas that normal people don't, and they can't tell you can't photograph something, if you're in the public right of way, that's completely fair game, so I just recall these times that they would try and pull these fast ones on me just because I didn't know, So I mean, that was my fault for being ignorant. But now that I know, we need to pass this information off to these people. These guys were all complaining in City Hall today about the fact that there's all this growth and all this stuff is happening in town, but this is all stuff that was planned 15, 20 years ago. And unfortunately, if you weren't around back then to complain about it, that's why they approved it. And I knew that the city attorneys and the city manager were going to mention something like that. And sure enough, after all the people spoke today, which was a lot less than should have been there, you know, they um
I mean,
they gave a quick explainer and they said, "Oh, well, this is all according to the general plan, and this is all stuff that had been decided, and we can't slow growth, because that's against the law
I mean
and this and that." But it's all BS. If,
that's
if if it's all according to the general plan, then they have the ability to make amendments and changes to that general plan.
that's kind of similar to what happened in the Bay Area and like say neighborhoods like in West Oakland, which were considered like neighborhoods that nobody wanted to live in, nobody cared about, and they slowly began making the properties values go down, and they began selling those properties to investors behind people's backs. And then
Yeah,
when the property became good, boom, they lift up the price, and it's all corruption. It's all done on purpose, bro.
yeah,
It's like you're not
absolutely.
fooling nobody. You know what I mean?
No,
And now areas like West Oakland, which used to be the hood, you know what I mean? Now, like people Tex with money live there now, bro. It's like and they're building like new housing that's not for black or brown people. It's definitely for the gentrifiers coming in, and it's just yeah, it all coincides, bro. I know I'm not as articulate as you, but you know what I mean. I see it, and I know what you're talking about, bro.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know that corruption. It's just you know. Oh, somebody asked me what are your thoughts on that guy Cholowani? You know about that fool?
Mm-mm. Who's
I know
that?
my dad knows about him. What's your
Yeah,
thoughts
so
on him?
so this was a guy who created a sex cult. He was a white Caucasian man from a very wealthy
Florida, right?
proletarian family in a beach town out there in Florida. and he decided to kind of find himself. So he hooked up with some people from the nation of the Lakota and the Dakota, and they taught him indigenous rituals and customs, language, and they taught him how to be indigenous or be an ally. He took that, went to New Mexico, bought land, got hallucinogens, started contacting women online and selling himself as a shaman, as a sexual healer, that he could fill your vessel up using his penis. And
Yeah, he literally
and
was saying stuff like that.
he ended up getting facial tattoos, and he went to San Diego and Los Angeles and started kicking it with people that were Chicanos, that were Southsiders and Maravilla and different gangs. And he started, selling himself like, I know I could teach you your language. I can teach you your culture. I know Nahuatl. I know the songs. I know the dances. I know the stories. And everybody was glued to him and mesmerized because he was very manipulative, very charismatic, and he could bring people in.
Oh, he was claiming Boyle Heights too. Someone said.
Yeah, he had Boyle Heights tatted on his back. He had Southern United Raza Sur 13 all over the place. He was tatted out. But what he had was the gift of gab. He could sell you Eskimo pies. He could sell you snake oil. The guy was a charlatan. He was a wolf in sheep's clothes. And he had a sex cult. And a lot of indigenous people were sniffed him out as being a snake, and they exposed him. And a lot of people that were Hollywood stars, but Hollywood being so close to Southern California, felt stupid as they had affiliated themselves. He came out in a couple of music videos with some guy called Prayers, who's a Southern goth immigrant cholo. He also came out with somebody from Homeboy Industries, who's an actor and a poet. And people started to distance themselves from him. And a lot of people had got. They basically got gypped because this person came in and sold himself as an indigenous shaman and who was running a sex cult. And that's who Cholowani is. He also called himself, I believe, Iron Jacket.
Iron Jacket, yeah.
He also, was known as J-Cat. A lot of people find out, this guy's a J-Cat. He just does drugs and he sells himself as a civil rights activist, but he just takes advantage of vulnerable people. And that's one thing that I want to mention. If you're a vulnerable person, you will be taken advantage of. In our brown community, indigenous community, we get taken advantage because we're vulnerable. We open up the doors for everybody. We're the most hospitable people. And yet, we're always on guard, not being able to trust people because for 525 years, we've been getting taken advantage of, and we're mute without a voice. So let this be a war cry calling for anybody. If you want to support what we're doing, come out, support the event, support the cleanup, and do what you can to spread the message, because this could happen to your community and your sacred indigenous site, that they'll build a dam or condos like it's happened in Oakland and Berkeley over shell mounds. And be aware and learn your your culture. Reclaim your identity instead of using drugs and gangs to fill that void in your spirit. Go and find out and ask questions of where your people came from and learn those songs, those dances, those Toltec ways, those Olmec ways, those Mayan ways, Incan ways, whatever, and find yourself. And you'll feel like you're fulfilled, that missing piece that was missing in your life is fulfilled. And that's what Elias is here to basically do. And I'm here to basically spread the word. And
So
Oakland United.
I'm gonna cut this soon, guys. But I want to get back to Elias just real quickly. Do you have any links or anything you want me to share for the Del Puerto Canyon or any of the work you're doing? Period.
Yeah. So
A way people can find you basically on here.
So we're on Facebook at Save Del Puerto Canyon.
Hold on, I'm on Facebook right now. Let me look that up. Save Del Puerto Canyon.
Yep. We have a page and a group there on Facebook, and both of those are pretty active. And then we also have a website, www.savedelpuertocanyon.org. And that has, I want to say it has a link to our GoFundMe page and just some other information and photos and stuff there.
Hold on. So that I'm gonna share this Facebook. So that's Save Del Puerto Canyon Facebook, and you said www dot what else? Save.
SaveDelPuertoCanyon.org.
Actually, this was a pretty popular live, bro. I had a pretty big audience today, so a lot of people tapped in to listen to your guys' story. That's a good thing.
Awesome. Well, thanks again
I
for having me, and I really
I
appreciate it.
honestly worked the graveyard last night in San Francisco, and I hardly got any sleep. And I actually was sleeping, and I woke up to do this live with you guys. I set up my alarm clock, so consider yourself lucky that I'm half asleep and I woke up to do it anyway because I
No,
promised Masakala I would do it. So I'm a man of my word, and I only got I'm always 3 hours of sleep in, so you could probably see it in me, bro.
me too, man. I think I was up at 5 this morning, but
I was up all night. I've been pretty much awake before I went to sleep almost 24 hours,
oh
bro.
my gosh, you're crazy, man.
I worked
We'll
the
get some
graveyard
sleep,
in
man.
San Francisco last night, and
Hopefully you don't got to work tonight, right?
no, and I worked overtime too this morning. They told me if I could stay a couple hours extra. I said, yeah, I'll stay. So yeah, I'm just
Okay.
I got to crash. So I don't mean to cut it short, but
No, you're good.
I'm glad. I always this is how I end my live. Usually, I let everybody get a last word. So I'm gonna start with you, Elias. What's your last departing words for my audience and for those who are gonna watch this video in the future? Because this is gonna be public.
just just be active. Be active in your communities, and don't be afraid to speak up and stand up, especially when at council meetings, at board of supervisors meetings, because those are the places where decisions that really affect us at home are made, and where we can have the most influence and the most change can be made at those levels too. And it's required. I mean, because if people don't show up and speak up and be critical of everything that's on the agenda, if they're not critical, then the city and the developers and everybody else will just take that as, oh, I guess we're doing everything right, and we're going to do it our way. So unless people speak up at the right time, I know a lot of people are seeing and being affected by growth right now, because everything's impacted. There's less housing and all that. But the reality is a lot of these decisions were made years ago, and so it's really hard for people to have that foresight to think, like, oh, there's going to be a 900 unit housing development built right here. Well, maybe you should go and speak up about it, at the meeting. Don't wait until they're already shoveling dirt, because then it's way too late at that point. It's already approved. They can't go back on it. So just check your agendas for your city councils, for your board of supervisors meetings, and just try and be as aware. Read your newspaper, but a lot of times newspapers are bought off too by developers and all that too. So you can't always rely on newspapers to
And that
get your information.
that is
And then
important.
speaking to someone who
I
works
always
there.
stress to people, get involved in your local politics for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in whatever city you live in, whether it be Oakland or in the Central Valley or San Francisco or San Jose, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, when I moved up to Grass Valley in Nevada City, and my main beat was covering city councils and stuff up there, the first thing that I noticed from covering Patterson city councils to those ones up there in the hills is how involved people are. I mean, every single item, someone was going up there and speaking, oh yeah, well, I don't really think so because of this. And it was normal. And people didn't have a target on their back just because they
Yeah,
spoke out. Like if
yeah,
I were to speak out at the council meeting today, I'd have people, oh, we got to get him out of here again. It's like, but it's because it's not normal. People have to, it has to be, it has to be done so often that it's normal, and it's welcome.
for
So,
sure.
but anyways, that's my last thing I want to say, I guess.
And what about you, Masatelo? What's your last departing words?
To keep that hope alive. Have the courage to dig deep and be a warrior. Your ancestors taught you the basics. They survived, and that you made it to this day. People power. Think about the power that you have to influence other people on social media and your leadership and your words. People are watching you. People are looking up to you. Do what's right. Everybody knows what to do, and they don't need to be told. A soldier is told what to do. A warrior already knows what to do. So if you find the calling in your heart, in your spirit, in your mind, and it correlates, lead on, march forward. Be like the Chichimecas. They banded together with their enemies because their world was under genocide, destruction, chaos, and disease, famine with the Spaniards. And they fought for 40 years and repelled the Spaniards. Why can't we do that again? Everybody sees what's going on with murders, prison rape, deportations, mass incarceration, gentrification, crisis in the home market where there's no homes available. And yet people still want to live in insanity, doing the same thing over and over, repetitive, expecting a different outcome. Wake up, smell the coffee, and change your life and change the 5 generations behind you and, change their life for the positive. So I'm hoping some of these words inspire and resonate with people. And maybe you could pass the word along to somebody else that's maybe sick, or they lost somebody within this pandemic, to keep hope alive and to keep fighting against this system that keeps us out and oppressed. That boot of oppression's on our throat. Might as well rise up and fight back. Those are my words.
All right, y'all. Well, in that, thank you guys for coming on. I always like to have different guests and different discussions on here. That's basically what Oakland Latinos United is about, my page. And thank you guys for coming in, and be sure to support the cause of Save Del Puerto Canyon. If you guys want to know more about it, how can they get a hold of you, Elias, if someone's trying to get a hold of you?
So we're at Save Del Puerto Canyon at Gmail also. So you can email there. I believe there's also a comment section on our website as well too, at savedelpuertocanyon.org. And you can always, send us messages on our Facebook site as well too. I'm currently working on a documentary right now, so I'll be releasing that hopefully within the next month or so, and posting that to the website and our Facebooks and all that stuff. But it'll be kind of like just a general, information about everything. Just recap everything that's going on so that people can see it visually. But I mean, springtime, I did a lot of drone footage out there for the documentary. Springtime, it's magical out there, and it's starting to dry up right now. But people like me, we have an appreciation for the canyon even when it's dry in the summertime. But yeah, so.
All right, y'all. So you guys heard how to get a hold of him, and be sure to look into that Save the Puerto Canyon. All right, man. I'm gonna have to ask you guys if you guys could cut out, because I'm gonna give my last words, and then I'm cutting out because I'm going to sleep. But good to have you guys on this live, and I'll be sure to try to get out there to Del Puerto Canyon and check it out for myself. You know what I mean?
Let me know. We'll give you a tour. Yeah,
for sure, and hopefully we could meet person to person.
Absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. All right, Masakta. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Taslokamasi, brother.
All right, man. And So yeah, this is my last words. I had these two brothers on. I've had Masakal on before. We talked about PTSD. He's been telling me about the Del Puerto Canyon thing for a minute now, and he asked me if I was actually going to do a different type of live today, but he kept asking me if we could do it. So I'm a man of my word, and so I postponed what I was going to talk about originally to do the live with him and his homie Elias, and good to meet that brother. So my last parting words is basically thank you guys for joining in. You know what I mean? There's a nature and our land, our water, a lot of different things are not being respected by humanity in the sake of progress, in the sake of capitalism, in the sake of building. You know what I mean? So a lot of things are not respected, and we're destroying nature for sure as humans. You know what I mean? And we need to put that in check. And I think the Del Puerto Canyon thing, from what they explained to me, sounds like a beautiful movement. It seems like it was a place of refuge for indigenous people, which I didn't even know about. I didn't even know about this place, bro. And I know a lot about the history of California. Trust me, I'm no pendejo, bro. I know my history. And even I didn't know this. You feel me? So it is inspiring to hear about a young brother talking about it. He looks like he was a journalist, a self-made journalist, kind of like me, a self-made historian. You know what I mean? A community activist, like I was at one point. I was a community activist as well. I guess I still am doing Oakland Latinos United page. But what's up, Smitty? But my last words is just remember, get involved in your local politics, see what's going on out there, fight for your right, be vocal, don't be silent, because silence is not going to get you anywhere. Much love to everybody out there. What's up, Smitty? We got Smitty, we got 1312, the homie on here. We have Mike Wallace, El Compa V from the Deep East Oakland. You know what I mean? My homie Sneaky Beanie out there in Detroit, Michigan, Southwest Detroit. Timo from the 408. Joe out there in Arizona. We had Wendy on here earlier, and you know what I mean. But if anybody wants to support the cause, man, South Oakland, yeah, right. If anyone wants, there's no South Oakland, brother. But if anyone who wants to support my page, my channel, help a brother out, there's a link to my Cash App. Any little donation you want to give, you know what I mean. Cepeda from the Rich Town. Treetop actually is going to be on here. I'm going to probably have him on next live. But I left a comment to my a link to my Cash App. If everybody wants to donate anything, there's a link right there. Any little donation will help. Just help out your boy Jose. You feel me? And yeah, man. Other than that, bro, you know, I gotta sleep, bro. I've been fucking working since last night. I'm tired, bro. You can probably see it. My energy is really low. I actually woke up. I was actually already asleep, and I woke up to do this live. So you can see, bro, I'm pretty dedicated, and I'm a man of my word. When I tell someone I'm gonna do something, I do it. So glad I had those brothers on. I'm glad to have met homeboy that came on with Masatal. Interesting dude, you know what I mean? It's always good to see Raza that's educated and it's out there doing something, you feel me, for the community. And that's what it is, bro. It's not always about gangs, it's not always about the streets, it's not always about war stories. Our Raza is much more than that, you know what I mean? And you know, we got to move forward. You know what I mean? We gotta educate ourselves about our local politics, about what's going on in the world, what's going on in our communities, because that's how they get us every time. You feel me? I always say, the raza, we have to be like the Jews or the blacks in many ways. We have to, speak out. And that's the way they get their stuff done, and that's the way people are gonna respect us. And platforms like mine and so many others, bro, are doing that, and that's the whole point. So I'm gonna let you guys go, bro. I'm actually sleepy, bro. I'm gonna crash, so I'm tired. I've been going all day, so I'm gonna talk to you guys later. Shortcuts, what's up, brother? What's up to everybody out there? And keep tuning in. I want to do a live or a spill maybe about Don Suave, northbound. Good night. About the Sacramento shooting, and also there was a weird story that I shared with a couple of you guys on private message on IG about a dude. He was an indigenous artist from Sacramento. I think he's from Sacramento or from that area. And someone made up a story that he was one of the victims that got killed, and it circulated, and it was just weird, bro. He did a live about it, and it was weird, bro. It was really, really freaking weird. And I really want to make a spill on it. You know what I mean? I'd like to reach out to homeboy, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was a trip, bro. That's a trip what the internet can do. The internet can kill you and you're still alive, bro. That is crazy if you think about it. Hey, Don Suave, save me one of those colognes, brother. But I'm gonna get off, man. Y'all be safe. This is Oakland Latinos United. Keep supporting. Let people know about my channel. Subscribe. You know what I mean? Even if you're a troll, subscribe and let people know. Share my videos. Share my content. And keep coming back, bro, because Oakland Latinos United. Remember, I was the first Chicano on YouTube. Don't let them other channels fool you. I've been here since 2007, and I'm going to keep on being here. I'm going to talk to y'all later. Be safe. Mexicatiawi.